أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد, respected brothers, young friends, students, viewers and watchers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Over the past 4 lessons of fiqh, we've been covering. In the first lesson we covered what fiqh is. In the second lesson we went into parts of tahara and understood a bit more about, revised what fiqh is and the introduction to fiqh. In the third lesson we spoke about the fara'id, the types of water, and we also spoke about the fara'id of wudu and the sunnahs of wudu. And last lesson, fourth lesson, we spoke about the etiquette, adab of wudu, also the makruhat, the things which are disliked in wudu. We also spoke about the conditions of being legally responsible to performing wudu, and also about the conditions of the validity of wudu. So we covered those 4 aspects of wudu last lesson, and we have been receiving some comments and complaints that the last lesson wasn't as clear in terms of audio, and I think I know why it was, because the device that we're using was actually quite old, and we're using headphones as the mic, and alhamdulillah now it's fixed. We've got a new device, alhamdulillah. Darul Ummah as a masjid, we've arranged for a new device which should do better live streaming and clearer audio, inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala. Let's see how it goes. First of all, jazakumullah khairan to everyone that's attending and to everyone that's watching and following. These are of course very important lessons, and we've said that the whole purpose behind these fiqh lessons is to remind and revise the ahkam, the rules and regulations of your basic ibadat, the 5 pillars of Islam, which are shahada and salah, zakah, hajj and sawm. These rules and regulations that are relevant to these 5 pillars, it's just about revising those, so that in case we don't know, in case we've forgotten, in case we want to go back to and make sure what are the fara'id of them, what are the sunan of them, and so on and so forth. I think it's very, very beneficial for that, bi'idhnillah tabarak wa ta'ala. Today inshallah we will be going on to the next part, and in the book that we are reading, Ascent to Felicity, Maraq al-Sa'adat. It is page number 46 that we'll be covering today inshallah, and 47 as well, and let's see how far we can go with Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. The first thing that we want to speak about today is the categories of wudu. Categories of wudu, meaning wudu can sometimes be fard, and can sometimes be wajib, and sometimes it can be sunnah, okay, or even nafal. Okay, mandub. Generally, sunnah غير مؤكدة, or nafal mandub, as in liked, you should do wudu. So it could be obligatory, fard, you have to do it. Without it, it's not doing it would be a big sin for those things, or you would be sinful for doing those things without wudu. And then we have wudu that's wajib, fard and wajib, and then we have mandub. The first state, or the first category of wudu, obligatory, fard, namely when a person is in a state of minor ritual impurity and intends on doing any of the following. So when I say minor ritual impurity, I am talking about needing to do wudu, not needing to do a bath. So needing a bath is called major ritual impurity. Okay, this is the state where you have to have a bath to purify yourself. But when I say minor ritual impurity, it means that this impurity, this najasa, or this state of najasa can be taken away just by doing wudu. So when you're in that state, when you don't have wudu, and you don't need a bath as well. So you don't need a bath, meaning you're clean in that sense, but you just don't have wudu. Okay? So obligatory fard, namely when a person is in a state of minor ritual impurity and intends on doing any of the following. So if you are in a state where you have done your bath, okay, and we'll come to why we need to do a bath, what are the conditions, or what are the statuses, or times when it's fard for you to do bath, and what other times is so on and so forth. But you've had a bath, you don't need a bath, but you just need a wudu. You just need wudu. What are the times that it is fard for you to do wudu? First of all, it is fard for you to do wudu for the ritual prayer, for salawat al-khams, for your ritual prayer, your salah. Before you come to your salah, it is fard for you to do wudu, because just like salah is fard, the wudu is also fard for that salah to be complete. ما لا يتم الواجب به إلا به فهو واجب. The rule says that whatever is wajib, but then something else must be done for that to be complete, then that activity which is required to complete that wajib is also wajib. So for example, to argue that not to argue, but salah is fard. Now for me to do wudu is fard because salah is fard. Without it, my salah is not accepted. Khalas? So the first situation in which wudu would be fard for you to do is the ritual prayer. Number two, condition number two, or situation number two, state number two is the prostration of recital, the sajdatul tilawa. Because if you want to do sajdatul tilawa, Allahu Akbar Subhana Rabbil A'la 3 times, we have sajdat 14 ayat in the Quran, according to the Hanafi understanding, and of course according to the Shafi'i understanding is 15. The whole ikhtilaf in Surah Al-Hajj, or generally, whenever there's sajda tilawa, there's a sajda ayah, if you want to do a sajda for that tilawa, then it is fard for you to have wudu. Khalas? Moving on. Number 3, touching a verse of the Quran, unless with a non-attached barrier. So to touch a verse of the Quran, so to open the Quran, and to touch a verse, it is fard for you to have wudu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. Okay? No one is allowed to touch this book, or this kitab, or these ayat, except for those who are pure, who are in a state of purity, who have wudu. Khalas. So touching a verse of the Quran, you need to have wudu in order to touch that ayah, the actual writing of the Quran. Khalas. Unless you have a non-attached barrier. For example, you want to turn the page and you use your sleeve, or you use a tissue, or you use something else to cover your hand, and then you turn the page. In that case, it's not fard. Khalas. It's not fard for you to have wudu if you want to turn the page by covering the page with something else, so with a cloth and so on and so forth. So 3 situations in which wudu is fard: for your ritual prayer, okay, for the prostration tilawa, for the prostration of the tilawa, or for sajdat tilawa, and of course touching a verse of the Quran. Now we're coming to when wudu can be mandatory. So obligatory is fard. According to this book, the way they translate fard is obligatory, is obligated upon you, you must do it. Wajib is the next level down. It is still very, very important. You must still do it, but it's the next level down. And there are some slight differences, inshallah. As you progress in our lessons, you will understand more the exact difference between fard and wajib in the Hanafi school of law. The mandatory wajib, wudu can be mandatory or wajib, namely when a person is in a state of minor ritual impurity and intends on performing circumambulation, tawaf of the Holy Kaaba. Okay, so you are in the state that you need wudu. First of all, you can't be needing a bath. Because if you are in the state where you need a bath, for example, you've had a wet dream, for example, you've been with your wife, for example, and the requirements, when you are required to do a bath, okay? If you are in that state, then wudu is not fard because you need to do a bath first. Khalas? In that case, it would be fard for you to do a bath first. But here we're talking about, wajib for you to do a bath first. But here we're talking about when it is wajib for you to do wudu only. So first of all, you need to be in a minor ritual impurity state, not a major, meaning you can't be needing a bath. And you intend to do tawaf of the Kaaba. To do tawaf around the Kaaba, as far as we are concerned here, it is wajib for you to have wudu. Khalas? Wajib. Or touching a book of Quranic tafsir. So Quran, Mus'haf itself is fard for you to. As for tafsir, it is wajib. Can you see the difference? Why it's a bit different? It's not as strict. Why? Because tafsir, the whole book isn't just Quran. There is also sharh from the mufassirun. There is stuff that's not wahi. Does that make sense? But even in that tafsir, if you were to touch the Quranic verse, you would still need to be, wudu would still be fard for you. But the tafsir itself, it is wajib. Because it is an explanation of the Quran, but not the Quran itself. But if you wanted to touch the ayah of the Quran, then it would be fard. Khalas, we're clear so far, inshallah? Now we're coming to when wudu is recommended, mandub. So we said fard, now we've said wajib. Now we're going to go to category number 3, when wudu is mandub. Wudu is mandub, namely when a person is in a state of minor ritual impurity, again not major, in the following cases: before touching a book of jurisprudence, fiqh, or the like, or the like out of veneration. So basically, now we're not saying that when you touch a fiqh kitab you have to have wudu. We're just saying it is good. If you do it, you will get ajr, and if you don't, there is no sin at all involved. It's clear cut. So there's no forcing. To touch a book of fiqh in which you are learning about salah, learning about zakah, learning about these ibadat, it is mandub for you too, because ilm generally. And besides that, it is fiqh, which is a very respected knowledge. It is the knowledge which explains how to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, when it is mandub for you to renew one's wudu for another prayer. So it is mandub for you to renew your wudu every salah. It is not fard. So you have got wudu from dhuhr. Now asr has come in. It is not fard for you to do wudu again, nor is it wajib. In fact, if you want to, then it's mandub, meaning you will get reward for it with that intention. And if you don't, there is no harm, there is no sin. To avoid disagreement of scholars of other schools of thought, such as after having touched a woman or one's genitalia, or basically private part generally. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Right. When it comes to fiqh, and fiqh is it's all about understanding, like we said at the beginning. And because we said fiqh is all about understanding, it's to do with how ulama, the people that have studied the Quran and the Sunnah and the tafsir and the hadith and the usul and everything, how they have understood Allah's laws. Fiqh is all about understanding. Now, when, say for example, Imam Abu Hanifa understands Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', Qiyas and tafsir and hadith and usul, he does it in a certain way. Imam al-Shafi'i, him being a different human, living at a different time, having different political realms to it, living in different countries, or having a different look onto Sharia, he also explains it. He looks at the Quran and the Sunnah and every Ijma' and Qiyas, but then he looks at it from a different angle. He looks at it from a different understanding, because like I said, fiqh is all about understanding, right? So now, sometimes you will find between the different schools of law, for example, in the Hanafi school of law, if blood comes out and moves from its place, your wudu is broken. In other mazhabs, it doesn't. In Hanafi school of law, if you accidentally touch a woman, when you're on the bus, when you're, whatever the case, you just touched a woman accidentally, you had no intention of shahwa or desire or anything like that, in that case, your wudu is not broken. In other madhabs, named Imam Shafi'i's madhab, when you touch a woman, even if it's accidentally, then your wudu is broken. Does that make sense? Now here, the Shaykh is saying that it is mandub and liked for you to renew your wudu, even if according to another madhab, your wudu is broken. Not according to your madhab. So Hanafis say, for example, that if you touch a woman accidentally, your wudu doesn't break. But for you to avoid that difference, and just avoid the whole argument completely, you just done wudu anyway. For that intention, then it is mandub. You will get rewarded for it, but you will not be sinful if you do not do it. Am I making sense so far? Inshallah, you can ask me questions now or even later, just so that we are on the same page together with Allah. So to avoid the disagreement is also mandub. Khalas. Before sleeping, quite clear, to go to sleep in the state of wudu. After waking up from sleep, again quite clear, is mandub, is liked. After every sin, this is interesting, because wudu is a good deed. And good deeds take away bad deeds. Also, wudu is known to be taking or washing sins away. Khalas? So after committing a sin, if for the sake of tawbah, to seek repentance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you go and do wudu properly. This is something very, very good. Khalas? Because sometimes we think, oh, what shall I do? I've just done a sin. Well, this is one step. Do wudu. And then say istighfar. Do some salah. Do some Quran. After laughing out loud outside of prayer, this is again interesting. When you laugh, ha ha ha, extremely loudly, okay, here the Shaykh is saying that it is mandub and liked for you to do wudu again. Why? Well, let's understand why. When you are indulged in extreme laughter, your heart and your mind is not focused, meaning you're in a state of you're not in a state of khushu' and khudu' as much. But for you to come back to that state of purity, to be more focused, or to generally just be in a state of being able to ibadah, right? This is something good. For you to be emotionally, physically, mentally, psychologically ready to do ibadah at any time, it's good. Laughing out loud, worldly talks. Why is worldly talk not allowed in the masjid? Because it distracts you from ibadah. So laughing out loud is probably one of the most important things in worldly talk. We laugh out loud very, very, very loudly sometimes. I'm not saying it's not allowed for you to laugh loudly. All I'm saying is, or all the Shaykh is saying is that it's mandub for you to do wudu afterwards. If you don't do it, no problem. Don't say to me that, oh Shaykh, what are you talking about? I've never done it. What's this? But this is what's going on here. It's mandub. If you do it, mashallah. If you don't, no problem. Okay. Wudu is nullified. Wudu is broken by any of the following things. So wudu, you've done it. You've understood the fara'id, the sunnah, the makruhat, the adab and everything. And now we're saying your wudu will get cancelled if you do any of the following things. Wudu will be nullified if anything, with anything that exits from the two openings. Okay, the two, al-qubul wa dubur, the front and the back, the two private parts, anything that comes out from those two paths, your wudu is broken. Okay, so that's anything. Khalas? So even if it's wind, and you've understood what I mean. Number two, filth that flows from other than the two openings, such as blood. So now we've understood that anything that comes from the two paths, anything, small or large amount. But when it comes to anything that comes out of your body not from the two openings, from your skin, from your face, from your teeth, from your gums, from your head, right? Now here, it's not just about it coming out. It has to come out and flow. Meaning it has to be enough for it to flow out of its place. For example, if you cut yourself, blood will come out. If it's a small scratch, it will just stay in one place and it will dry up and it will be finished. In this case, you don't need to do wudu yet. Your wudu hasn't broken. Okay, the blood hasn't moved from its place. Same thing with pus. The pus hasn't moved from its place yet. But then if it comes out loads and it actually moves out of its place, then wudu needs to be done. So when it comes to the private parts, any amount, small or large, wudu is broken. When it comes to any other part of the body, and not the front and the back, then the impurity or that filth needs to move from its place, meaning it needs to be more than a little bit. Clear so far? Go on.
Does vomiting break your wudu?
Yes, we're going to come to that inshallah. Vomiting a mouthful also breaks your wudu. We'll come to that inshallah. Vomiting a mouthful, there you go. Number three, vomiting a mouthful or more. Okay, vomiting a mouthful, to vomit a mouthful or more. If you go to footnote number 84, it says to you exactly what a mouthful is. The criteria of a mouthful is that one's mouth cannot withhold the vomit without strain. So when you're vomiting and it's filled up your mouth and it's quite difficult to hold it in, that's called a mouthful. When you vomit that much, your wudu is broken, you need to do it again. Sleeping in a position such that the buttocks are not firmly planted onto the ground, such as while lying down or leaning on one side. Okay, sleeping while leaning. Sleeping while inclining. In any case, as long as you're not sleeping firmly like this is called sitting while your buttocks are firmly grounded. Meaning you're not leaning against anything, you're just sitting by yourself. But then if you're leaning against something and you fall asleep, then unfortunately you're going to have to do your wudu again. But if you're not leaning against anything, even if you fall asleep, your wudu is still there. Why is that? Because generally, if you are conscious enough in your sleep to keep yourself steady and standing, then that means you would know if there's anything coming out. Make sense? If you're conscious enough to keep yourself upright, then that means you'd be aware if anything comes out. But if you're not conscious enough that you've lied down, you've leaned against something, and if then you fall asleep, that means even if something else was to, because if something is touching your body and you're not aware, you've fallen asleep, or you're leaning against something, you're that unconscious, then if something was to come out from the two paths, you would also be unaware. But generally, this is the understanding of it, but generally this is the rule, that if you lean against something and fall asleep, your wudu needs to be renewed. Loss of consciousness. Okay, when you become unconscious all of a sudden, you fainted. Why again? Because you don't know what happened in that time. You probably, a lot can happen when you're insanity, when you become insane. You know, mentally you become insane. Drunkenness. Of course, you should never be drunk in the first place. But if you are drunk, and not that you should be, but if anyone is ever drunk, or if a drunk person, a Muslim drunk person, does want to pray salah, then we should tell him that, brother, you need to do wudu again. Khalas? Laughing out loud by an adult while performing the prayer salat. Now this is one of the mukhtalaf fi masail, like, when you're praying salah and you laugh loudly, ha ha ha, in salah, then according to our school of law, your wudu breaks. Okay, according to other schools of law, maybe it doesn't. Now, khalas, but again, I said to you that the whole point of fiqh here is not to compare the two madhahib or the four madhahib and to say which one is stronger, because that is the subject of al-fiqh al-muqaran, comparative fiqh, to compare the different schools of law. And you can only do that when you're a skilled student. When you know the different madhahib, then you can compare. You can't compare BMW and Mercedes unless you know each one properly. Okay, so let's learn BMW first, or Hanafi madhab first, and then we can compare with other madhab if you want to. That is not a problem at all, inshallah. And we've studied this while we're studying Al-Azhar, alhamdulillah, and it's very, very interesting. And in fact, I recommend it to you when you finish studying fiqh, all the different chapters that are relevant, you should also do comparative fiqh. And you can understand for yourself, see what the adillah, what the evidence is, and how they come to those conclusions. It's all about broadening your mind. There is no rigidity, there's no need to. I don't know why some people are very strict and they get very upset when you talk about certain things. It's Allah's religion. Okay, it's Islam, Allah's religion, Allah's Quran, Allah's Sunnah. Okay, the mujtahidun, they've tried to understand and they've done their best in trying to explain it for you to understand easily. Khalas? There's no harshness. So, laughing out loud. Number 9 is contact between an erect penis and vagina. And this is why maybe these lessons are more directed towards mature students, inshallah, because we want you to understand. So, if there is contact between those two private parts, your wudu is instantly broken. That's if those two privates by themselves are touching. As for if your hand touches your private, then again, according to a Hanafi school of law, your wudu doesn't break. And you might say to me, well, there's so-and-so hadith and so-and-so hadith, and they will say to you that there's so-and-so hadith and there's so-and-so hadith, and the argument continues, and it's always been there, and you can get involved in it, but you can argue until the cows come home, but there will always be the ikhtilaf there. Khalas? Now we come to the purificatory bath, the ghusl itself. Okay, let's read a bit into the ghusl, inshallah. Maybe we can call it a night, an evening. So I'm sure everyone has questions, and whoever does, we're going to answer them. So now we're talking about wudu is finished. We've understood the faraid, the sunan, the adab, the makruhat, how it breaks and everything, when it might be fard, when it might be wajib, when it might be mandub, and how it breaks now. And now we're coming to bath, the next, or the bigger washing, the bigger cleansing. The following 3 actions are obligatory integrals of the ghusl, the faraid of ghusl. Number 1, rinsing the entire mouth once. We said in the faraid of wudu that washing each part of your face, your arms, wiping with your head and your feet once, that was fard. Same here with ghusl, to rinse your mouth once is fard. To do it more is sunnah. To do it 3 times is sunnah. Rinsing the nose up to the bone once. So, your mouth and your nose. Why? Because these are inside your mouth. And when you wash yourself from outside, it doesn't cover these parts. As for almost every other part of your body, the water will touch it. But these parts are separate. So you start with your mouth and your nose, and then the rest of it's easy. Washing whatever is possible without undue difficulty or hardship of the entire body once. Khalas? Footnote number 87 says something very interesting. Hence, it is obligatory for water to reach the following parts of the body. The immediate inner part of the ears. Because the outer part, these are easily reachable, right? The skin beneath one's beard. Okay? Because now you're having a ghusl. It's not the same as wudu. Moustache and eyebrows, the skin beneath it. For all, regardless of thickness. All of one's hair, including the roots. You need to wash all of your hair. Although the roots alone are sufficient for a woman's braided hair. Sometimes women have braided hair. Bangla kita khore zen shuma mohila khole sulle kita khore zen. Kufa bandu the baba zen berai ta khore beri bande. So in that situation, it is enough for the water to reach the roots only. Only the roots. But if the sister's hair is not braided, then all of the hair needs to be washed. And this is a question that comes up a lot, that as sisters, it's difficult for them to wash their hair and to dry their hair all the time, and so is there a solution? Unfortunately, for ghusl to be complete, especially for when it's fard, you need to wash your hair. Unless it's braided, then just the roots, which means all of your individual hairs do not need to be washed. But if it's not braided, then every single individual hair needs to be washed with water. You might need to dry it again. You can get a nice dryer from Argos for about £20, inshallah. Allah make it easy for you. And of course, same thing with the brothers. You need to make sure all of your hairs are washed. A lot of brothers have long hair as well, so it's not just for the sisters. So, and in fact, it is sunnah, according to many scholars, to have long hair. So there's no, double standards, inshallah. Among the emphasized sunnahs of the ghusl are the following. So the sunnah mu'akkada of ghusl are the following: intention, niyyah. So if you were to do ghusl without intention, your ghusl is still done. But you would have missed a sunnah mu'akkada. Sunnah mu'akkada, intention, niyyah. Number 2, washing the hands until the wrists. Sunnah mu'akkada. Washing one's private parts, front and rear. Sunnah mu'akkada before the ghusl. Washing off any filth from the body before the ghusl. Okay? So you're going to do your ghusl anyway, but say for example you've got some cow dung stuck, or you got a child and you weed on you. So to wash that off first, and then ghusl you do it anyway, right? Performing wudu first, and someone asked, can you do wudu first before one of the lessons? Followed by pouring water over the entire body, starting with the head for a total of 3 times. So this is 3 times now, thrice, tathlith. Water over your head, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? Now, if you do it, and in the footnotes he's going to explain as well on 89, it says that if you're in a shower and you're under the shower for quite a long time, then that counts as the 3 times anyway, because enough water is being poured over you. Same thing with if you jump inside a swimming pool, or if you jump inside a fushkuruni, a furki, or a big pond, a river, a sea. These things, they automatically, the water reaches all of your whole body because you're sunk inside. We're talking about on a bucket sort of thing. Khalas? And then we're coming to ghusl is of 3 types. Okay, we've got the fard ghusl, the fard ghusl, the wajib ghusl, the nafil ghusl, and then when you don't need to do it. Let's just read it quickly. Fard ghusl, namely when any of the following things occur: the emission of sperm, sexual fluid, mani, which is called in Arabic, that leaves its normal place inside the body with pleasure, even if it exits without pleasure, for any reason, such as a wet dream or by looking at something or someone with lust. So when there is a seminal fluid or sperm coming out, then you must have a ghusl all the time. It doesn't matter even with pleasure, without pleasure, while you're sleeping, while you're awake. Ghusl is fine. The disappearance, and this is again this is okay, khalas, let's read on. Inshallah, I understand that everyone here is a grown up, and inshallah you will be grown up soon, so we're mature people, inshallah. Even if you're a child, you're a mature child, and mature children need to know about this, because as a child, as a young person, you're allowed to get married from the time you're baligh. And we've heard that, Amr ibn As radiyallahu anhu, he got married at the age of 11. Okay? And the difference between him and his child was only like 11 or 12 years different. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As. So this is normal. Someone might get married young. So it's important to know this stuff, especially if you're an intelligent child. The disappearance of the head of the penis into the vagina, as in insertion, or the anus of a living human being whose body is desirable, even if without emission of sexual fluid. So as long as there is entrance, then that you need to do ghusl again. You need to renew ghusl. The ending of menstruation or postnatal bleeding. So sisters have hayd and nifas. When that finishes, then it is fard for you to do ghusl again. Wajib, namely for someone who becomes Muslim while in the state of major ritual impurity, meaning they need a bath. Someone, okay, who's non-Muslim, that is accepted Islam, for them it is wajib to do ghusl. Okay, especially if they're in the state of major ritual impurity. Although the sounder opinion is that the bath is obligatory, fard on him, not mandatory. Okay, recommended nafil ghusl when? For any of the following reasons. For Friday prayers. You can say sunnah as well. But you can also say nafil, that for Friday prayers, for Jum'ah, for Eid. For first one is Friday prayers. The number 2 is the 2 Eid prayers, entering into the state of pilgrim sanctity to ihram. So before we're in the ihram, it is sunnah, we can say nafil. On the day of Arafah as well, okay, entering Mecca, entering Mecca, entering Medina, the illuminated Al-Madinah al-Munawwara, visiting the Prophet ﷺ, the ziyarah of the Prophet ﷺ, it is, nafil for you to be in the state of ghusl. Ghusl is not necessary after the following: the exit of Madi and Wadi. These are another two types of fluid that exit from the private parts, and they're not the same color or the same thickness as the seminal fluid. But if they come, you don't have to do ghusl. If you do wudu, it's enough. Only if it's seminal fluid. Waking up after having a wet dream yet finding no wetness, even for a woman. So even if you have a wet dream and you can remember seeing, you can remember in your dream that there was wetness, but then you probably dried up by the morning because you might be sleeping for a long time. In that case, you still need to. Sorry, my mistake. Waking up after having a wet dream and yet finding no wetness. So if you wake, you can remember having a wet dream, but there is no wetness. You wake up, you don't have to do ghusl because there is no evidence that anything's come out. So the first one is there. Okay. The insertion of a finger or the light into the vagina. So if you, that kind of stuff, you know, general husband-wife stuff, you don't have to do ghusl for all of that. And then there's some other points. If you've got the books, you can read, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala. That's the wudu, and then next we'll be talking about tayammum, dry evolution, okay? I hope everything is clear, and some people have come late, no problem, inshallah, you can probably catch it online. Do you have any questions, anybody?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually.
Okay, before you come to your question about Zamzam water on wudu, it shouldn't be a problem, inshallah. Okay, especially if it's to do wudu. If it's to wash off like dirt and stuff, then it's better to avoid it because it's a respected water and it's valuable. It's the main purpose of it for you to drink it. But wudu, ghusl, it's acceptable, but it's better to not to use it for washing away dirt like filth, like cow dung or horse dung. But if that's the only water you have, then again it's okay. Does that make sense? But generally it's allowed, inshallah. Yes?
Check just quickly. If we use like our phones or any digital gadget to read Quran, what's the masla in terms of do we need to have wudu all the time, or?
It would be preferred for you to have wudu, but it wouldn't be fard as such.
So if we read like
on your phone,
yeah,
on your phone, because the reason is because it's not, you know, the writing that's on the phone, it's not physical, right? And that's the same. This is the whole mas'ala of pictures and digital pictures and photographic paper pictures. This all is relevant, right? Because when you're looking on your phone, it's just basically pixels. There is no physical writing. Furthermore, you've got a non-attached barrier, which is the glass, and the construction of the phone itself. So even if we were to argue that the Quran is actually written there, we would still go along with the fact that there is a non-attached barrier, which is the phone itself, the glass of it, which is not attached to the Quran. I know it's attached to the phone, but it's not attached to the Quran itself. Khalas? As in, it's not a part of that Quran. So when I get the Quran app, a glass doesn't pop out with it. Are you following what I'm trying to say to you?
It's like putting a tracing paper on a Quran and using that to...
Exactly, so it's a non-attached barrier. Khalas? But generally, wudu, you should try and recite it. Good wudu is better. But of course, if you're on the train, on the bus, you recite the Quran, of course, why not? Any other questions?
So in terms of many non-Muslims, they touch the Quran. So what's the rules on?
Well, to be honest, they shouldn't be touching it, the Quran, especially the Arabic of it. But according to the footnotes, you'll find that even the tafsir of the translation of it is also, they shouldn't be touching it. But then again, we'll be arguing, oh, they don't even accept Islam. They haven't even accepted Islam. What do you mean they're not allowed to? Does that make sense? That's a question that's going to come up. Well, the answer is that it is your responsibility. If you are there next to him, then you should try and convince him that he shouldn't be. So it's more of a responsibility for yourself as a Muslim than it is for the other person. But then there is also the other argument, or the other answer that a lot of ulama have said that the non-believers, kuffar or non-believers, غير muslimin, they are sinful for not believing. They are also sinful for every sin they do. Okay, so it's not like I've become a kafir and that's it. I'm cool. I've got a free pass to do anything. A lot of brothers leave Islam thinking this. A lot of people nowadays leave Islam thinking it's a way out. But we need to understand that leaving Islam is not an exit path. The biggest sin is kufr, and then all the other sins are also counted as sins. So these are separate punishments. Khalas? So for them to touch it while knowing that they shouldn't be, as a non-Muslim, it would be a sin for them too. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? For them to touch it while knowing that it's not allowed according to Islamic rules, according to the rules of this book, and touching this Quran, according to the rules of this book, I shouldn't touch it. Say for example, there's a legal book, a text that's preserved somewhere in the parliament. Okay? You as a foreigner have come and it's illegal for you to touch that book unless you have paid a certain amount of fee. Okay? Or you are a certain dignitary. Alright? Say for example, it's an ancient text in British Library and you're not allowed to touch it unless you have clearance for it. Okay? If a random person comes and touches it, while knowing that he shouldn't be touching it, would that person be held accountable in the general court of law? They would be. You are trespassing. Right? If say for example you go to a museum and there's a special text from 500 years ago, you're not allowed to touch it unless you are working at the museum or someone, the supervisor. You knew that you're not allowed to. If you say, I don't know, okay, maybe they might let you go. But you knew that you're not supposed to touch it, but you know what, let's be cheeky, let's touch it. Then you might be eligible for a fine. It might be even a crime, especially if it's a big special piece of art. Right? Mona Lisa and stuff like that, to touch it without permission is quite a big crime. Are you feeling what I'm trying to say to you? Understand what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah?
Yeah, I was thinking about the solution for the situation.
A solution for the situation, especially for da'wah cases, we say to give them a translation which is strict translation. And for the sake of da'wah, of course, ulama will argue that it's okay as well. Especially if we have hope that this person will accept Islam. So that's the solution. Go on.
According to Dr. Zakir Naik, he allowed to give Arabic with the English translation. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, again, Doctor, like I said, these are different upon masail. And if Dr. Zakir Naik, according to his evidence in his study, is allowed, then I am not going to say no. But as far as we are concerned in this book, and you'll find and other general studies that we've done ourselves, it's probably better to avoid. But again, he's a specialist in da'wah. So he's looking at it wholly from the da'wah perspective, in hope that this person will accept Islam. And I said to you that translation is fine anyway. If he's saying that even the Quran is fine, no problem, inshallah.
Next question.
Go ahead.
So in terms of the blood, if you have a drop of blood, let's suppose in your face, and if you remove it with your finger, doesn't mean your wudu is broken.
The main thing is to do with the amount. Right? If the amount is so less that you wouldn't have moved, then your wudu is still active. But if the amount is this much and you would have moved, but you moved it with the tissue, trying to be cheeky or maybe trying to avoid doing wudu, then your wudu still, it's about how much comes out. It's not about what you use to hide it or to avoid or to contain it. It's about how much comes out. We've said, because if you can remember, the siyaq, what we were talking in the context of, if anything comes out of the two privates, then automatically. But if it's any other part of the body, then it's about how much comes out. That's taking into consideration. If it's more and it flows, if it doesn't flow, it stays, it's a little bit, it's okay.
Last question.
Another question, Zallah.
Last question is, in terms of if you are in a position where you need to have a ghusl for first, do you need to do it immediately or you can wait?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just had to, because you know my son's a bit unwell, so I might keep him now on the phone. He can, like, something can happen anytime. So, but generally, please repeat that question. I'm sorry.
So in terms of if you need a ghusl, first ghusl, do you need to do it immediately or can you wait until? So let's suppose during the night time, can you have your sleep and?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah. But it would become fard as soon as it's time for salah. Khalas? But it has happened when the Prophet ﷺ or others, Sahabas and other people of knowledge, that they, for example, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say to you is, even if you woke up in the state of najasa and you're fasting in Ramadan, okay? You woke up and you're still in that state, your fasting is also still valid. Generally, to answer your question more directly, yes, it's okay to delay it. But of course, if you're a wary person and you want to do it straight away, it's better. Because you don't know when death is going to come. You don't know when salah time is going to come. You don't know how long you're going to sleep. You don't know when, if your alarm's going to go off and you're going to wake up on time. You might not have any time, you might miss Fajr. So many arguments. Khalas? Any other questions?
I was thinking about it. You know how you said that if someone's smelling in prayer, for example, they smell, But you know those people that were old and it's really strong, and that disturbs you while praying. Is your salah broken or is it sinful for them?
Okay. The reasoning behind being sinful for having a strong smell is because it causes inconvenience to others. Now, even if it's oud and you are fully aware that this smell will cause inconvenience to others, then you should be a bit careful on how much you use. End of the day, it's about harming others or inconveniencing others. We shouldn't be inconveniencing others, especially in a place of sacredness, sanctity, a holy place, a masjid, a place of ibadah. You know, everyone is here according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you should respect that. Even a non-Muslim would do so. They would come inside, take their shoes off, and it happens all the time. So as Muslims, we should respect the sanctity and the holiness of the masjid and the connection and the ibadah that these people are involved in. So even if it's oud, I understand. You might love oud, but take it easy. Now I'm scared maybe some of the smells I wear is probably too strong because I like strong smells. But take it easy on the fragrances. Any other questions? All good then, inshallah. Next lesson, inshallah, we'll be moving on to tayammum. May Allah accept from all of us. May Allah guide us. May Allah give us goodness of this dunya and akhirah. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.